You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's show. Putting your company's employee experience first will lead to more success for your business. When employees feel valued in their roles, they are more likely to provide better customer service. That's right. Imagine that. So that being said, on today's show, we are discussing the 5 levels of the employee hierarchy of needs. Joining us now is author, speaker, and customer service and experience expert, Mr. Shep Hyken. You have seen him before. He's a best-selling author. As I said, you've probably read some of his books. So thank you so much, Shep, for joining us on the show once again.
And it's great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Sure. So can you walk us through what is the employee hierarchy of needs from the top to the bottom?
Yeah. And can I give a little background on it first, so you know where it came from?
Sure.
Everybody's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs that, starts out with your basic necessities all the way to the top of the pyramid of self-actualization. And if you're not, then I don't know what science class or psychology class didn't you attend when you were in high school or whatever, college. But anyway, so I started with that premise because somebody made a comment about the customers, they actually use the term hierarchy of needs. And I asked, is this a Maslow thing? And they go, what are you talking about? So I explained. And we took a look at that model, which was essentially 5 levels leading all the way up to the tip of the pyramid. And we looked at it for customers. And for customers, do they want to be emotionally connected to the company? That's the tip of the pyramid. But then I have talked and wrote about for years that the employee experience drives the customer experience. Yeah. So what are the main needs that employees have?
Sure.
And at the bottom, at the base of the pyramid, it's what everybody, why do you take a job? I need to eat, therefore I need a paycheck, and what other compensation that I can get. Sure. So that's where it starts, the need. But ultimately, as an employer, I want my employees to stay. I need to create that experience that, for lack of a better term, I'll call it destination employment. Brian Keeley from Baptist Health South down in Florida. He just retired as CEO last year of this large healthcare organization. His goal was to create an employment experience where once you come to work at one of the Baptist Health South, whatever the department or the building that you're in or the area, you will never want to leave. That's how good they want it to be. Yeah. And if you never want to leave, it means you're happy. If you're happy, it means you're probably going to treat the people around you, including patients and their family members who are their customers, even better. So that's where it kind of all started. So anyway, I'll walk you through these 5 layers, if you will, of the pyramid. At the bottom is the essentially paycheck. Like I said before, it's compensation. I need to eat, therefore I need a job. Yep. Next is, as an employee, do I align with the culture? Do I align with your beliefs and what you're all about? And that's important because if I'm just there for the paycheck and I don't really like who I'm working with, don't even like the company, the moment I can make 20 cents more an hour, I am gone. Yeah. So culture becomes important. Uniqueness. This is what I'm really good at. I would love to take something that I'm really good at and have you use that in my job. Do I speak a foreign language, for example, that maybe nobody else does, and we get a customer that happens to be from that country and I can communicate with them and you bring me in to do that? That's a pretty cool thing. Yeah. Next on, as you go up, this is really important. And actually, I flip-flop between uniqueness and this next one as to what's more important, and that is growth opportunities. Employees need to know that there's a place for them to go that might be better. And that could come 2 ways. It could be in promotion, or it can just be in, I'm increasing your skills, I'm giving you training, I'm making you feel better about yourself because I'm giving you this opportunity to learn more. Sure. Finally, at the top, you get this concept that's basically fulfillment. Am I fulfilled in my job? And hence, if I am, I'm going to be looking in that place. Why would I ever want to leave? Destination employment. We're back to that again. So those are the 5 steps in a nutshell. We can break them down, spend a little bit more time on them, talk a little bit more about employee experience, whatever you want.
Sure. Let's start with fulfillment, in fact, because I think that's sometimes a hard thing for employers to get their hands around, right? Whether or not you feel as though your offering that to your employees and whether or not they are fulfilled, because I think that's kind of sometimes it's a moving target, right? I know I have that challenge in our media company here.
Yeah. Well, so I wrote a book and I used Brian Keeley as my first case study I had 7 in that chapter. It was called A Culture of Fun, F-U-N. Now, fun is not, let's have a great time and have a party. Although it's important maybe once in a while to do that, but that's not what this fun is about. It's an acronym where F stands for fulfillment, U stands for uniqueness, which we talked about, and N, which we didn't talk about, stands for next. So what does the fulfilled employee look like? And the best way to do this is the same way you go out to your customers and find out if you're doing a good job. Look at your employees and say, hey, what are we doing that's right? What are we doing that's making you happy? What are we doing that makes you stay? What are we doing that made you want to come to work here? And find out what all that is. Go to your top employees, your rock stars. Ask them these same questions. Go to the ones that you know are laggards, ones you'd probably like to get rid of. Ask them the same questions, and you'll see differences that'll help you make decisions on how you want to treat people, get people into the company and train them and move them through the ranks, whatever. So fulfillment is number 1. U for uniqueness, we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman that I met at he's a server at a hotel in Seattle. And I was there, I don't know, 10 years before. And I won't forget this guy because he was just unbelievably over the top great at what he did. And 10 years later, I'm back and I remember this guy and he's still there. And I said, you're still here. You're making a career out of working in this hotel. And he goes, I love this hotel. Now they've hired me to be a server, but once a month, they have me shoot a video on some things happening at the hotel because my hobby is videography and I love to shoot video. So, and I asked, do they pay you for that? He goes, believe it or not, they pay me. They asked me to just turn in how much time. And I have a feeling that's legally what you're supposed to do. Somebody's doing work for you.
Yeah.
Because they let me do that. No, I can't imagine any other company would let me do that.
Right.
So there's your uniqueness. And like the foreign language example I gave you. And then there's next. What's next? What am I excited about? So do we have a new product that's coming out that's next? And if I work at a car dealership, is there a new model? If I work at a retail store, is there a new line of fashion clothing that's coming in from a designer that nobody else has? What am I excited about that's coming next? Or is this just the greatest place to work that I'm excited about coming in tomorrow, the next day? So there you go. So I've taken you through a few different models.
I love it. And it's funny because this is perfect timing because right now that we're sitting down at restaurants, as you know, or maybe we're in retail environments, or maybe we're at a car dealership or some other type of business where you don't get a good experience from the individual that you're dealing with. And right away, the first thing that comes to mind is either A, that person's having a personal problem or a tough day, or B, you go to, I wonder what this place is like to work at, right? And how come they're putting up with this individual? And if they are, then maybe they have a problem, maybe they have a reputation problem. They can't get any better than Susie here, who's completely failing in this customer experience, right? It's the first thing you kind of go to.
It's amazing to me. I work with companies, and most of the companies I work with, believe it or not, people, I'm in the customer service experience space. They have me come in and do speeches at their meetings.
Sure.
We have trainers that deliver training. If you look at my clients, 90% of them don't need what we sell, but they keep buying it.
Sure.
And here's what I mean. And by the way, this is why this is the case. The best companies know they need to keep this message fresh and live in front of their people. So they're going to bring in people like me to talk about it maybe at a different angle, using different examples.
Right.
As you know, I'm flying into Atlanta sometime soon, and I'm going to be talking to a client. And ironically, they hired a direct competitor of mine last year to speak. And I said, would the audience just not get it? And the answer was no, we need them to hear it again. Just we want them to hear your perspective.
Sure.
This is a company that's already nailing it.
Yeah.
But then I had another company. They have 250 retail stores. And I would say 80% of them needed a lot of help. And they wanted to do this full out training program. Let's take all 250 stores, take the manager and assistant manager, and then the departmental managers all together. And I said, time out. Let's do something a little different. Why don't we take 5 stores? And I only want to have 10 people in the audience. And by the way, it'll be one of my trainers that are doing this. And you got your manager and assistant manager. I want one of your rock stars sitting in that audience. So one of the stores, the rock star. I want a mediocre store. Actually, let's go with 2 mediocre stores, ones that are average, ones, that you'd like to see improvement, but they're not really bad. And then let's take a couple of laggards, I mean, really bad ones, and stick them in there. Because I want the laggards to see what great looks like. I want them to see what even average or okay looks like.
Sure.
And guess what happens when we sit down and we realize it is the manager's fault that this store is failing, not the company's fault.
Yeah.
We have to be really careful who we put in those positions that are making the hiring decisions, the training decisions, the onboarding experience, because that's what's going to make that customer say, and I'll use the title of my last book. It's also famous by the Terminator, Arnold himself. It makes them say, I'll be back.
That's right.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And you are so right. You're spot on. There's a lot of people that are listening right now that are shaking their heads. It's all about that lead dog, isn't it? I mean, that person that is in charge, that manager there, makes all the difference. And how many times have we seen it in professional, sports? You change the manager, and bingo, guess what? If it's the right person, it comes out a winning team. If it's the wrong person, obviously you got a losing season, right? But everything kind of stems from that move.
Yeah, and the only difference I'd say in sports and in business, and you're right, the manager makes the difference. But in sports, the coaches and managers are hired to be fired.
Yeah.
And the reason is because after a while, the motivation and you're pushing athletes to go to a whole nother level in order to perform at the level they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes that manager or that coach is all over you, right?
Yeah.
But in business, you need some of that. But here's the thing, if you've got a consistent style that your employees like, they don't want to go anywhere else.
Right.
That's so the manager has a great opportunity to be that manager, that coach, that leader, and they aren't hired to be fired. They're hired to nurture and grow people within their organization. Managers in sports and coaches in sports are hired to manage a team and make sure that individual fits in. And if not, they're real quick to say, get out of here.
That's right.
We need, and so it's just a different culture.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they're put on this earth for the same reason, and that is to make a great group of people perform great.
Right.
I love that phrase. Managers and coaches in sports are hired to be ultimately. Look at in New England, the Patriots, Belichick. They finally let him go.
Yep.
Okay, and because people were finally tired of it. We have a hockey team here in St. Louis, and we switched coaches mid-season. He was a winning coach, won a Stanley Cup. What happened? The team heard enough of him. Time to bring in some new blood.
See that? Yep. And there's a lot of companies out there that do the same thing, and it can turn things around. The other thing that I might mention is that by focusing on your employee base and what does drive them, and what offering the growth and the uniqueness and the culture, and certainly the compensation's got to be in line. How great is it when you get the customers of that company that then want to work there? When you go to Chick-fil-A, and I know it's a heavily used example, but you just say, man, if I was in the job market for a job like this, in fast food or restaurants or whatever, this is the number one place I would come to. I want to work among these people. They're so happy. They're so outgoing. They seem so fulfilled in what they're doing. And how great is that when you've got a company that goes, we have a plethora of applications. They're called our customers. They actually want to work here, right?
Yep. In one of my books, The Amazement Revolution, which also includes that case study on Brian Keeley and that fun concept we talked about earlier, there is exactly that, the hiring experience. And Container Store. Are you familiar with the Container Store?
Yep.
They hire people who like to shop at the Container Store. They call them, I think the word is neatniks or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so that's what if you are, I guess the personality of the customer is the personality of the employee that they want as well.
That's right. That's right. It's all too often that is the case. And it was funny. I chuckled when I saw the Container Store. I'm like, they made a whole big, huge store out of containers? What could be in this store? Until my wife dragged me in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, they got something for every
really cool.
possible container of any. And of course, you leave a few $100s later, and you're like, do we really need all this container? It's crazy. How did we live without it, right? But
they did a great job, and and if it's the same thing, if you go, you mentioned Chick-fil-A. I actually got to work with great burger chain, In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, sure.
I love what's on their menu. We have burgers, we have fries, we have burgers and fries. Okay,
that's right. And man, they're good.
Yeah, and so when I worked with them, several things I learned. I hope I'm not breaking any confidentiality, but their employees don't leave. Matter of fact, what they try to do as a manager, part of your responsibility is to get other employees manager ready. So as they expand, they can move their people into these stores as they grow. Number two, if you see a person sweeping outside and doing basically probably the lowest level job in the place, which is keeping it clean, which is actually one of the most important jobs in the place, you'll find that this is a very highly compensated person for the job that they have. They don't leave. The stores create softball teams that compete against other stores' softball teams. They've got this incredible culture. So it really is, when you come to work with them, you're coming to work at a family, not just a job.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do for a lot of companies. But I want you to think, I had a friend of mine that was a high-level executive at a major convenience store chain. And every Friday, he invited his team into his office, and he took out a bottle of wine, and they all had a little sip of wine. I don't know how legal that is to do these days, or what the liability is of sending somebody out on a Friday afternoon after a couple of glasses of wine. But no, he kept it. But I would talk to his employees that he worked with. They love this guy.
Yeah.
And isn't that what it's all about? So if there's something we have to remember, so important, the employee experience is what drives the customer experience. You can't, as a manager or a leader, treat employees one way and expect them to go out and treat a customer or a colleague a different way. Treat the customer the way you want your employees treated. Treat the employees the way you want your customers treated, if not better. And recognize your opportunity as a leader to do so.
I'm going to leave it right there, because that's exactly the way it should go, for sure. So for people, company and leaders that are watching, man, no truer words have been spoken. In fact, I'm going to show all of the books here that Shep Hyken has written. They are all must reads. We're going to show, there's going to be links right underneath this video for you to connect and get with those books. And Shep Hyken, author, speaker, and customer service and experience expert. Now you see why. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank all of you for watching, and look forward to our next time together, Shep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.